WWE just made a shocking announcement about IShowSpeed, and it could completely change his future in professional wrestling. What they just revealed might actually shake the entire wrestling world, and nobody saw this coming. This is the kind of news that's leaving fans stunned everywhere. And in this video, we're breaking it all down, because this is seriously crazy. On March 30th, 2026, chaos erupted at Madison Square Garden, and it directly led to a shocking title change thanks to some unexpected outside involvement. The names in the ring were familiar. It was a wild NYC street fight for the WWE Tag Team Championships, with the reigning champs, the Usos, defending against the Vision duo of Austin Theory and Logan Paul. And sitting ringside front row, watching it all unfold, was none other than IShowSpeed. Now, Speed wasn't supposed to be a part of this match. He was there as a spectator. He was in the first row when Logan Paul and Austin Theory challenged the Usos for the World Tag Team Championship in a street fight. But what happened next dragged him directly into the storyline in a way nobody predicted. As the broadcast rolled on, LA Knight made his presence felt early by chiming in on commentary, setting up the dynamic for the evening. Knight wasn't in the match, but he was at ringside, calling the action, keeping an eye on things. Then the chaos started. He got inadvertently involved in the match after LA Knight, who was a guest commentator for the match, intervened at ringside to prevent Paul from using the brass knuckles given to him by his mother. A tussle ensued, leading to Speed falling over the barricade and inadvertently knocking out the megastar with the brass knuckles. Let that register for a moment. IShowSpeed, a YouTube streamer, just accidentally knocked out LA Knight with brass knuckles at Madison Square Garden. The fallout was immediate. Later, Logan Paul used those knuckles on Jimmy Uso, allowing Austin Theory to pin Big Jim and capture the World Tag Team title for the Vision. So the entire course of the tag title picture shifted because of IShowSpeed's ringside accident. As Paul and Theory celebrated with the titles and began making their way to the back, they stopped and posed with IShowSpeed. The cameras caught everything. Speed looked like he had no idea what had just happened around him. Yet there he was, standing next to the new World Tag Team Champions, framed as part of the reason they won. And that's where the real announcement comes in. Post-match, Paul Heyman promised that the Vision would watch Speed's back against the now vengeful Usos. Paul Heyman, the man behind some of the biggest names in professional wrestling history, was now publicly aligning IShowSpeed with the Vision. Already cursed by Danhausen, Speed recently became a part of Paul Heyman's Vision when he unwillingly helped Logan Paul and Austin Theory win the tag titles. This was not a random cameo. This was not a backstage segment that ends and gets forgotten. This was a full-blown storyline insertion at the highest level, inside the most famous arena in sports entertainment, and it led directly to a championship changing hands. The question now was no longer whether IShowSpeed would be involved with WWE again. The question became how far WWE planned to take this, and the answer came almost immediately. Within hours of the Madison Square Garden episode airing, the wrestling world lit up with reports about what WWE had planned next for IShowSpeed. And it wasn't a backstage skit, it wasn't a guest commentary spot, it was a match. At WrestleMania, IShowSpeed is reportedly in line to compete at WrestleMania 42 in a six-man tag team match that would see him team with new World Tag Team Champions Logan Paul and Austin Theory to face LA Knight and the Usos, according to Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer. That's the announcement, the biggest streamer on the planet, teaming up with Logan Paul and Austin Theory, going up against one of the most beloved acts in WWE, LA Knight, and two of the most decorated tag team wrestlers in the history of the business, the Usos. And it's all happening at the grandest stage of them all. WrestleMania 42 is scheduled to take place on April 18th and April 19th at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada, and the event is expected to feature a packed card that could include up to 16 matches. This is the kind of platform where careers are made or broken, where legends cement their legacies, where mainstream attention floods through the door, and now IShowSpeed's name is on the match listing. In the latest edition of Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer said that the angle was executed to set up a six-man tag team match at WrestleMania 42, with IShowSpeed teaming up with Logan and Theory to take on Knight and the Usos. That means the brass knuckles incident at MSG wasn't a happy accident. It was a deliberate booking decision designed to create the foundation for a WrestleMania match. Now, WWE is building in some flexibility here. Meltzer also added that if Speed isn't able to get ready in time for the match, then it would likely be a standard tag team contest between the newly crowned World Tag Team Champions and the Usos, with Speed and LA Knight in their respective corners. So there's a contingency plan if things don't come together in the ring. Meltzer himself stated, if Speed isn't ready, they could do a tag match with Knight and Speed in the corners, but right now, it's the trios match that is on the match listing. But let's be clear about what the current direction is. The six-man tag, Speed in the ring. Speed competing. Not watching from the front row, not standing on the apron holding a title belt for someone else. Competing in a WrestleMania match. A six-man tag team match would be a great way to mask Speed's inexperience in the ring. Especially if there's any trepidation whatsoever on the part of WWE Creative, the format allows the experienced wrestlers to carry the bulk of the in-ring work. While Speed can come in for high-energy moments, do a spot or two, and let the crowd absolutely erupt, and WWE clearly wants that eruption. For WWE, bringing in a name like IShowSpeed, who has massive reach across social platforms, is a clear play to expand visibility beyond the traditional wrestling audience. This is about numbers. This is about reach. Across Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Twitch, IShowSpeed has amassed 149 million followers over the past 10 years. That's 149 million sets of eyeballs that WWE is potentially tapping into. By putting Speed on the WrestleMania card, the brilliance of the booking is in how organically the storyline has been constructed. Speed wasn't just dropped into a match announcement, he was woven into an existing rivalry between the Vision and the Usos, given a catalyst moment involving LA Knight, and now has a clear reason to be both targeted and protected heading into the biggest show of the year. To fully understand how IShowSpeed ended up at the center of a WrestleMania storyline, you have to rewind a week before the Madison Square Garden incident, back to the March 23 episode of Monday Night Raw. That was the night the dominoes started falling. And it started with one of the most peculiar characters in all of professional wrestling. Danhausen, one of the most popular social media stars of the decade, returned to WWE in the form of IShowSpeed on this week's WWE Raw. Speed showed up in good spirits, clearly excited to be back in the WWE ecosystem after his memorable appearances in 2024 and 2025. Speed was all smiles tonight, even talking to Intercontinental Champion Penta, ahead of his title defense against Dirty Dominic Mysterio. He was networking, shaking hands, being the charismatic presence that had made him one of the most recognizable faces on the internet. Then, the encounter that changed everything. Later in the night, we see WWE Monday Night Raw General Manager Adam Pearce catch up with Speed. The two exchanged pleasantries, with Pearce saying that he's happy IShowSpeed is back in the WWE. A warm welcome from the authority figure of the show. Everything was pleasant, everything was fine, until it wasn't. Then, a certain very nice, very evil character comes up, as Danhausen introduced himself to Speed, as a WWE legend no less. Danhausen, the face-painted, cape-wearing, curse-wielding enigma, who had been terrorizing the roster since his arrival, turned his attention to the young streamer, and he came with an offer. Known for his very nice, very evil persona, Danhausen proposed a deal, involving Speed's YouTube account access and shared profits, an offer the streamer refused. To advance his career, Danhausen proposed that Speed give him his social media credentials, they can split the profits, and they can rename the channel IShowSpeedhausen. The audacity of the request was pure Danhausen. Rename one of the biggest channels on the internet. Hand over the keys to an empire with over 100 million followers. Split the profits. Speed naturally said no, and that's when the mood shifted entirely. That refusal led to Danhausen placing a curse on him, setting up an unusual off-air race with Speed's account credentials at stake. Danhausen has cursed the likes of Dominic Mysterio and The Miz, and over the past month, the two have experienced nothing but unfortunate events. IShowSpeed should have taken that offer because now he's officially cursed by Danhausen. If you've been following WWE programming, you know that Danhausen's curses aren't just throwaway comedy bits. They have consequences, at least within the storyline. Dominic Mysterio's fortunes tanked after being cursed. The Miz ran into a wall of bad luck. And now Speed was the latest name on the list. Danhausen, who debuted at Elimination Chamber 2026, continues to appear across both Raw and SmackDown as a free agent, often leaving chaos and curses in his wake. What made this storyline uniquely compelling was how it spilled beyond the screen. IShowSpeed's latest appearance on the March 23 episode of WWE Raw didn't just end in the show. It appears to have followed him into real life, as the popular streamer now claims a certain curse may be more than just a gimmick. Speed started talking about bad luck on his streams, things going wrong, delays, problems. Since being cursed, IShowSpeed has had a miserable week, with him experiencing various delays. Even former WWE champion Big E got involved in the discourse, expressing genuine concern, or at least very convincing theatrical concern for Speed's well-being. Big E warned, yes, gravely concerned about IShowSpeed's safety, gravely, the curse is real. So when Speed returned to Raw on March 30 at Madison Square Garden, 1 week after being cursed by Danhausen, IShowSpeed returned to WWE Raw, looking for the curse to be reversed. IShowSpeed spoke with Danhausen, saying his life has been a disaster. And it all started with Danhausen cursing him last Monday on Raw. He was desperate. He wanted the curse lifted. Danhausen requested $1 billion, streaming rights, and a cabana boy. Speed couldn't meet those demands. Speed was unable to meet those demands, leaving the situation unresolved as the segment ended. With no agreement reached, the curse remains in place, adding another unpredictable chapter to the ongoing storyline. And then, still under the weight of that curse, Speed took his seat in the front row for the Tag Team Championship match. And the rest is history. The curse narrative was the storytelling vehicle that explained why everything went wrong at ringside, why Speed ended up tumbling over the barricade, why the brass knuckles ended up in his hands, why LA Knight got knocked out. It was all connected, all deliberate. IShowSpeed's involvement in professional wrestling didn't start in March 2026. His relationship with WWE stretches back years and has evolved from comedic cameo to legitimate in-ring competitor. To understand why WWE trusts him with a WrestleMania spot, you need to trace the full arc of his wrestling journey. It all began at WrestleMania XL in April 2024. IShowSpeed has a rich recent history with the sporting organization, with his first appearance coming in 2024 at WrestleMania, in which he was dressed as a Prime Bottle mascot during the WWE United States title triple threat match between Logan Paul, Randy Orton, and Kevin Owens. That's right, Speed's WrestleMania debut came inside a giant Prime energy drink bottle. It was absurd, it was hilarious, and it ended with violence. IShowSpeed was also involved at WrestleMania 40, where he suffered an RKO at the hands of Randy Orton, while dressed as a Prime Energy mascot. Randy Orton, one of the most ruthless competitors in WWE history, kicked Speed and planted him through the commentary table with an RKO. The clip went absolutely everywhere. That moment accomplished something important. It proved that IShowSpeed could take a bump. It proved that he was willing to put his body on the line for the sake of entertainment. And it proved that the audience loved watching him in that environment. The views were astronomical. The memes were endless. And WWE took notice. Speed wasn't done after WrestleMania XL. In the same year, he appeared at the WWE Draft. Speed would later appear on the April 29 episode of Raw to announce the Raw brand's second-round picks for Night 2 of the 2024 WWE Draft. He was becoming a recurring figure in WWE programming, someone the company could call upon to generate buzz and cross-pollinate their audience with the massive streaming community. But the moment that truly elevated Speed from celebrity guest to in-ring participant came at the 2025 Royal Rumble. On February 1, 2025, Watkins appeared in WWE's Royal Rumble, when Akira Tozawa, the planned 8th entrant, was considered unable to compete in the match. Watkins substituted for Tozawa. Watkins managed to eliminate Otis with Braun Breaker, but then got speared by Braun Breaker shortly after. Think about that for a second. IShowSpeed, a 20-year-old streamer, entered the Royal Rumble match. He eliminated someone. Otis, a 330-pound wall of a human being, was thrown out in part because of Speed. IShowSpeed previously entered a WWE ring for the first time during the 2025 Royal Rumble, where he eliminated Otis before being speared and eliminated by Braun Breaker. And then Braun Breaker, one of the most explosive athletes on the entire roster, delivered what many fans called one of the most devastating spears they had ever seen. He famously took the place of the injured Akira Tozawa during the 2025 Men's Royal Rumble match and was promptly cut in half by one of the most brutal spears that Braun Breaker is likely to deliver in his entire career. Speed sold that spear like he had been hit by a freight train. The crowd at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis erupted. Social media went into absolute overdrive, and IShowSpeed had officially competed in a WWE match. Then came the training. Last October, the YouTube star was present at the WWE Performance Center to record an episode of Speed Goes Pro with Orton, which is a series where Speed tries to keep up with some of the best athletes in the world in their respective sports. Speed didn't just show up for a photo op. He went to the Performance Center, WWE's state-of-the-art training facility in Orlando, and worked with Randy Orton, the same man who had RKO'd him through a table. The man with over 2 decades of in-ring experience was now helping Speed learn the craft. Speed himself talked about what the experience meant to him in an interview, saying, "I watched that my whole life. Since my childhood. I started watching that when I was 8 years old. Me and my little brother used to watch 20-minute video highlights of Jeff Hardy, Rey Mysterio, just high-flying from the top rope. I'm literally living the dream right now." This wasn't a celebrity dipping their toes in for clout. This was a lifelong fan being given the opportunity of a lifetime and taking it seriously. The Performance Center training, the Orton mentorship, the willingness to take real physical punishment, it all pointed to someone who wanted to be more than just a novelty act. Earlier this year, Speed himself teased the WrestleMania possibility in an interview on Yahoo Sports Daily, saying, "We got WrestleMania coming up, so you may be seeing me in there. You may be not. I'm just not trying to get beat up. But we'll see. We'll see. I got beat up too much times." The self-awareness was charming. The acknowledgement that he had been physically destroyed. Every time he set foot near a WWE ring was honest. But underneath the humor was a clear signal he wanted to do more. And now WWE is giving him that chance on the grandest platform they have. So here's where we are. IShowSpeed. Darren Watkins Jr., a kid from Cincinnati, Ohio, who began on YouTube in 2016, uploading content playing games such as Fortnite and NBA 2K, is now booked for a match at WrestleMania 42. The scope of that reality is staggering when you actually sit with it for a moment. This is a person who went from gaining traction through gaming live streams and viral clips to standing shoulder to shoulder with some of the biggest names in sports entertainment. He began live streaming in 2019, which eventually took off for him in 2021, when he gained 1 million followers in just days. The growth was explosive and unlike almost anything the internet had seen before. IShowSpeed's fame began skyrocketing in 2021 after clips of him started being uploaded on TikTok and making its viral rounds. Now he sits at the intersection of 2 massive entertainment industries: professional wrestling, which draws millions of viewers every week across Netflix, USA Network, and pay-per-view events, and content creation, where Speed commands an audience of 149 million followers across every major platform. WWE understands that this intersection is valuable beyond what any single match can generate. It's about expanding the tent, bringing new eyes in, creating moments that live beyond the broadcast. And the WrestleMania 42 card that Speed is joining is no small affair. Those tuning in to the pay-per-view event will be excited to see CM Punk defending Raw's World Heavyweight Championship against the 2026 Men's Royal Rumble winner, Roman Reigns. Meanwhile, SmackDown's undisputed WWE Champion Cody Rhodes will defend the title against 2026 Men's Elimination Chamber winner, Randy Orton. These are generational main events, and Speed's 6-man tag will sit alongside them on the same card. In addition to American artist Jelly Roll being featured on WWE SmackDown as of late, to presumably set up a match at WrestleMania, former NFL quarterback Tom Brady has been rumored to appear at the 2-night event. After criticizing WWE star Logan Paul and poking fun at the scripted nature of professional wrestling. The celebrity involvement at this year's WrestleMania is deep, but Speed's involvement is different from a musical performance or a hosting gig. He's being asked to get in the ring and compete. The storyline construction has been meticulous. First, bring Speed back to Raw for the Danhausen curse on March 23. Then, have the curse create chaos in his real life and on-screen life throughout the week. Bring him back to Raw on March 30 to try to get the curse lifted. Have him fail. Then position him ringside during the tag title match, where the curse manifests as physical calamity, leading to a championship changing hands. Then have Paul Heyman publicly align Speed with the Vision, creating a faction dynamic. And finally, book the WrestleMania match where all of these threads converge. That's not haphazard. That's considered storytelling that integrates a social media personality into a professional wrestling narrative without it feeling forced or disconnected. LA Knight commented on what transpired on WWE Raw between him and Speed, saying, "Mistake or not, it's coming." Those 5 words from Knight tell you everything you need to know about the direction. This is personal now. Speed accidentally cost Knight the tag titles. Knight doesn't care about curses or accidents. He wants payback. And WrestleMania is where he intends to get it. The match format also makes intelligent sense from a booking perspective. A 6-man tag team match would be a great way to mask Speed's inexperience in the ring, especially if there's any trepidation whatsoever on the part of WWE creative. Speed doesn't need to carry 20 minutes of technical wrestling. He needs to come in, deliver a few signature moments, interact with the crowd in the way that only he can, and let the professionals handle the heavy lifting. Logan Paul, who has had multiple WrestleMania matches and a lengthy WWE career at this point, can guide Speed through the experience. Austin Theory is a polished performer who can fill any gaps. And on the opposing side, the Usos and LA Knight represent 3 of the most reliable in-ring workers in the entire company. The backup plan exists as well, with Paul and Theory versus Jimmy and Jay, with Speed and Knight in respective corners being the fallback if the full 6-man tag doesn't come together. Either way, Speed is part of WrestleMania 42. That much is settled. What hasn't been settled is what comes after. Instead of speculation, his appearance confirms one thing: WWE isn't done with him, and whatever they're planning could be unfolding in real time. Is this a one-off WrestleMania moment, similar to what other celebrities have experienced, or is this the beginning of something longer? Something that sees IShowSpeed become a recurring presence? In WWE programming the way Logan Paul did before him, the trajectory suggests the latter. Each of Speed's WWE appearances has escalated in significance. Prime bottle costume at WrestleMania XL. Draft announcer on Raw, Royal Rumble competitor. Performance Center trainee. Backstage segment with Danhausen. Accidental interference in a title match. And now, a WrestleMania match of his own. Every rung on the ladder has been climbed deliberately, and with increasing stakes. While his wrestling background is largely untested, the WWE has a history of spotting talent from outside the traditional wrestling circuit, and Speed possesses the one thing you cannot teach in any performance center on Earth: the ability to make people watch. Whether it's gaming, traveling, meeting athletes, or standing in a wrestling ring looking completely overwhelmed, people watch IShowSpeed. That's the currency WWE deals in: attention, and Speed has it in abundance. WrestleMania 42 takes place on April 18th and 19 at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. And when IShowSpeed's music hits, if it hits, the stadium and the internet will react in unison. That much is guaranteed.